Darren took it upon himself to change the bank account for the YouTube channel. He removed my access from the YouTube channel before we signed any deal. The money that was supposed to be paid for June got paid to his own personal bank account, and he tried to take that for himself before I got somebody else involved. I was talking to one of his closest friends that he grew up bowling with, and he told me he was just hanging out with Darren and he thought it was great that he could just show up, film videos, go home, and collect money. Those are Darren's words.
Initially, 85% of that was Jesse.
Initially, we were 50-50, and then he showed no interest in the actual growth of the business. So I said, okay, I would like to take it further. And then I gave every other partner the offer of 15%. I didn't just keep 85% for myself. And then I gave him more share later on once he expressed to me how he felt about it. I took 10% out of my own share to make Darren's share now 25%. Why he failed to mention that in the video, I don't know. Darren said the only money that I'm willing to pay you is $15,000. And if you don't want to take it, then we could just blow the whole thing up. So he basically threatened me with a take it or leave it, threatened to delete the channel behind closed doors, told me he wouldn't make YouTube videos anymore and everything would just go to zero if I didn't just take his offer for a business that I worked on for 5 years.
If you don't feel right about a deal, just know what you're worth. Don't take it.
All right, well, what an interesting thing to wake up to at like 11. And I got a text from another creator in the bowling community saying, yo, sorry to hear that things ended with you and Darren. And I said, where'd you hear it? And then I go on YouTube and I see that Darren made a 15-minute video talking about why he thinks I am such a terrible person. So if you don't know who I am, my name is Jesse. I am a content creator, video producer, video production by trade. But for the last 5 years, almost to the exact day or the month at least, I've been working with Darren Tang on his YouTube channel, and I was in charge of creating all the videos, filming everything, edits, thumbnails, titles, everything on the content side. What we're gonna do is I'm just gonna play through the video and I'm gonna pause at points, and I have got some receipts and stuff to show. The narrative that Darren gave is not quite 100% accurate by any means. A lot of details were left out. Just to make this clear, I have no interest in hurting people for my own personal gain, right? There are some people in the bowling space specifically that I have told my full perspective to that can't believe that Darren Tang is on the other side of this sort of treatment that is happening towards me. And I told him, I said, you know, like I could air this all out and I don't really want to. I want to see him succeed. The role that I've played in his life is just to make him look good online, right? Like to support him in his career and like whatever he needs to bowl better, but still have content creation on the side, whatever we could do with that. Like that's the role that I played in his life. And to see that this is what things have come to is really sad. And like I said, I didn't want to be the one to come out and like throw shots, but shots have been thrown at me. And I'm kind of just going to be defending the things that were said about myself and giving extra context on things that very important context. So let's get into the video and you guys can come to a decision of your own of however you want to feel about the situation.
I do want to say thank you though to Jesse for all the work that he's put in over the years. He did really good work behind the camera with the editing. With that, we are parting ways.
So not that I'm entitled to thank yous or anything, not that I deserve, because I just don't really think I did. Like I have this weird concept about the word deserve. I just try to have gratitude, right? And so I'm grateful that he did start off the video with a thank you. 5 seconds of thank you for 5 years of work. Some may call it a little bit imbalanced, and 15 minutes of talking about how bad of a person I am. Like, I almost just wish he didn't really say thank you. This
video isn't meant to shine any bad light on Jesse. It might sound that way, it might come off that way to some, just due to the pure fact that, you know, I'm gonna talk about my experience and it may not come out very nice. So
yeah, the video quite literally only shined a bad light on me. And a lot of things were said that kind of didn't need to be said. So I'm not sure why he even made this video, because what role do I have in bowling now that I'm not with him, right? You know what I mean? Like what's the point other than to get his emotions out?
I'm streaming one day and he's in my chat. He goes, no, I mentioned that I'm looking for an editor. Jesse reached out in my chat and said, hey, I'm available. I'm in Vegas. Let's see what we can do. And talking about some financials and some numbers at first, you know, I was very new to the space. I didn't really understand how things worked and like what the cost of a video, what that cost was. Everything seemed kind of high, but I went you know what, if we're gonna do this, we might as well do it right. So took a leap of faith and we jumped in head first, and you know, things were going really well.
Okay, so let me respond to the thing that he just said. He said everything seemed kind of high. I guess high is subjective, right? Depending on where you live in the world and whatever. I was already freelance, self-employed videographer for 5+ years when Darren and I started working together. I was making wedding videos for $4,000 per video, 8 to 10 minute videos, kind of just like a YouTube video. I was just shooting restaurants and filming social media videos for $500, $800, you know what I mean? Again, just short 30-second product videos or food or whatever, right? My initial deal with Darren was 4 videos a month for $1,000. And he says in this video, he didn't say it yet, but he says everything felt kind of transactional. Everything felt kind of high. When on my end, I very clearly expressed, I'm taking a very big hit on the amount of money that I'm charging you for these videos. And this was all expressed in our very first call. The first call that we had was like 3 hours long. And he told me about his desires with YouTube. And he specifically said this one thing. He said him and Marshall have talked about making YouTube videos before, and where the channel itself makes money and they can just pay the editor what the channel makes, because as bowlers, they don't need it, right? They have bowling income as their main source of income. And this is prior to making any money, right? No monetization on YouTube whatsoever. He put that thought in my head of, I just want to make a channel and be able to pay the editor whatever the channel makes. I never held him to that, but again, the thought was in my head that that's kind of the direction that he wanted to take things. And so I said, all right, I'll take a hit up front for the sake of long-term potential here, right? Because I did believe that I had the skills to be able to create a solid YouTube channel. He had a small online audience already that I felt like we could grow together. So I said, I'll take that hit up front. I'll only ask for $1,000 for 4 videos, and then we'll see where things go. Again, massive hit, not even close to the amount of money that I was making doing anything else. But I took that sacrifice in the beginning for the sake of building something good together.
But early on, you know, he was more transactional. You know, this is a business, you know, I pay him, he makes the videos, and we call it that. I saw it more from the angle of let's be a team, you know, let's spend some time together. If we're gonna be doing this, let's get to know each other, let's be friends and all that. And yeah, things were a little weird there at first, but you know, things kind of moved along.
I saw it just the same way. Like I said, I took a massive hit with the amount of money. That's not transactional. Mind you, I had a pregnant wife and a toddler at this time. I was married. I was in a very vulnerable position with my family situation, and I was sacrificing time with my family to spend time with Darren. Specifically, like, me and my ex-wife had arguments about it, why I was spending so much time bowling, why I was going off with this guy that I had just met, blah, blah, blah. Because I also believed in the relationship. I also saw it as a team building thing. The $1,000 that I asked for the 4 videos was just like baseline expenses so that I could have something to put food on the table for my kids. It was not me just trying to rinse him at any point did I try and rinse Darren at all.
League Night is really cool. It's still really cool. It's a product that was not groundbreaking, but we did it in a way that, you know, again, separated us from everybody else. It was different. The production value was high, and a lot of the reasons why you guys enjoy watching them is because of how they were produced and how things were just done differently. My experiences there were very difficult. We'll put it that way. It was very difficult for me. Jesse possesses a lot of qualities that they aren't the best qualities to have.
Okay, I agree with this. When we started League Night, I was freshly divorced, right? Freshly out of this relationship. I was a single dad of 2 kids, a 6-week-old child, and a toddler. And I went from having a wife to take care of the kids while I was working to now learning how to work and take care of kids, 2 kids at the same time. It was a very, very, very hard situation for me. I was under a lot of stress during that time, and I'll take accountability for any personality traits, you know, that I had that Darren didn't necessarily vibe with, because it's a trying time, you know what I mean, to go through that. And I wouldn't want anybody to have to deal with being cheated on, you know what I mean, going through a relationship breakup, and then like having to deal with like taking care of kids, you know what I mean? Like, I wanted to be there for my kids. I didn't want to be a dad that didn't show up, you know what I mean? Like I wanted to make sure that I had my kids for my share of the time. I had to move back in with my dad. Like, my whole life was just going backwards at this time. The one thing that I was actually going forwards was this thing with Darren. And so I tried to put a lot of effort into making it really well and taking care of it. But yes, me as a person during that time, extremely stressful, very difficult situation, and I could totally understand, and I'll take accountability that some of those things that I was going through in my personal life may have reflected my attitude or the way that I would talk in other situations that didn't have anything to do with like my relationship and stuff.
Got to a point to where I wasn't enjoying being around him. And it's been this way for a very long time, to be honest. I would get cornered in league sometimes because he's fairly arrogant and fairly defensive. And it was tough in league when he would pose questions and it was like a yes or no question. So it was either yes, yeah, you're right, or no, you're wrong. You know, it was kind of that deal.
Okay, I'm trying to be very mindful here. The way that he's framing it sounds interesting, and it could be he's making it sound like asking a yes or no question is bad. Please let me know in the comments. Like, I'm having trouble understanding why that's bad. And he's saying he feels cornered because I would ask like a yes or no question. Not that I would force a yes or no, but it's like I would just ask a question about bowling, right? Because he was a pro and I was new to bowling and I was trying to understand. Again, I'm having a hard time here. So again, maybe I'm completely falling short here and I'm missing the mark. And again, I'll take responsibility for that if that's the case. But I didn't know asking questions was bad. But I'll tell you this, there's a lot more to this league night thing, right? So like I said, Darren is the pro at bowling and I'm the student, right? I'm new to bowling. I'd only been bowling for like a year at the time. And obviously I wanted to learn from him. And so it was more than just this yes or no thing. There's a lot of contradictions in bowling, right? There's a lot of contradictions that kind of end in the same result. Every bowler thinks that they just do it correctly. That's just what it is. Like, you can even go on howtobowl.com and see Packy giving his take on how to do a specific thing, and then Darren giving his take on how to do a specific thing. Complete opposite things, like the ways of doing it, but it achieves the same result. I noticed these contradictions very early on. Darren we'd be bowling together, and I would ask him a question, or he would try to give me some advice. And then the discrepancy would come into my mind and say, wow, I've heard something else before. And I would mention that. And I'd say, hey, I've heard this before. Can you help me understand? Or at least that was my heart behind it. Did it come out that way perfectly? Probably 99% no. So, again, I'll take responsibility for that. But my heart is to understand. And as a new bowler, seeing all these discrepancies just threw me off. And so I'd always ask about it. But Darren took that as me questioning his authority because he's the pro and I'm the student. And I should just be able to just say okay when he would tell me something. And so once I realized he was kind of not really giving me advice anymore, and he didn't express this to me at all. Like, I had to go out of my way to ask him. And I was like, I feel like you kind of don't really want to help me at bowling anymore. And he told me. He expressed some of these things that he said in the video. He said that he feels like I'm kind of just like not really in a growth oriented mindset, that he felt like as a student I should be questioning like what the professional is saying. And it was kind of a lot to take in because, like I said, I'm someone that understands. I love brain everything, right? I like played a lot of chess growing up, Rubik's cubes, strategy games, all that stuff. Like, my brain is wired to understand things, and when something doesn't click properly, I try to get to the bottom of it. And Darren didn't like that. There's been quite a few times that Darren has given lessons to people and then vented to me about it, saying that they kind of gave him pushback, they talked back to him, blah, 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 and that he doesn't want to coach them again. And the difference here is that we were in this partnership, so he was kind of stuck with me. And so I could totally understand that that would frustrate him and say like, wow, I can't just kind of like move on from this guy. I have no choice but to film these videos with him because the channel's growing, the videos look good, but I don't like being around him. So I get it. Yeah, that would frustrate me also. And that's totally okay for him to feel that way. And so we talked about it multiple times, and it got to a point where I just said, you know what, okay, if I just need to be a better student, that I need to just be able to say, okay. Obviously, it didn't happen immediately. It probably didn't happen completely at all, ever. There's still times that I was trying to understand things and, that say things maybe that rubbed Darren the wrong way, and I'll take responsibility for that. But things got very extreme. And it got to a point where we even had a safe word. And I don't remember whose idea the safe word was, but regardless of whose idea it was mutually agreed upon. When we were in this bowling setting where Darren was the coach and I was the student, if I said something that kind of rubbed him the wrong way, that he could pull out the safe word, which was pineapple. And I kind of just had to shut up and just kind of reflect and say, okay, what did I say wrong that kind of made him feel that way? And I just kind of had to take it, which I was completely on board with, because if it helps me be a better student and it helps our relationship get better, cool. But tell me why Darren used the safe word on me on a golf course one day. We were golfing and he was giving me kind of unsolicited advice. I wasn't really asking for help. And he was telling me, it was specifically about, I was hitting a slice every time. It was going way off to the right. And he was telling me, you should just aim for the slice, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I just kind of want to like learn how to play golf correctly. And then he's like, nah, I mean, like, but that's your miss. You got to play for your miss. And I was like, dude, I kind of just want to golf and have fun, And he goes, all right, pineapple. On the golf course, sitting in the golf cart. He's using the safe word on me. Again, maybe I'm way off the rockers here, but that just seems like a way abuse of power and abuse of authority. Like, I wasn't asking for the help really to begin with. And I get, yes, Darren's better at golfing. Like I said, I just wanted to play golf and have fun and not think about it too much. I don't think and get mad on the golf course like the way a lot of golfers do. A lot of golfers get mad and they throw clubs and whatever, and that's not at all in the place that I was at with golf. I was just there to have fun and have a good time. And even if I was hitting 10 shots a hole, was it a little frustrating? Sure, but I've never thrown a golf club. I never got visibly upset like that. I was never cussing and yelling or anything. I really just wanted to go and have a good time and have fun. But like when he used the safe word on me at the golf course, that was very, really just ruined things for me. When it came to the safe word, I was like, is this really the kind of relationship that we're going to have where you can just use that word at any point now? I thought it was for the bowling alley, like because you're the pro and I'm the student and I want to get better and learn from you, so it's okay. But now we're talking about it in other places. It was weird.
And that just was not a pleasant experience for me. Again, this is something that I've never dealt with before in a person in my life.
So let me talk to that point real quick on something that he's never dealt with before in his life. That is 100% fact. And I totally understand why. This is just a product of his environment, and no knock on his family or parents or anything, or his teachers or students, whatever, or mentors growing up. It's just a product of what he is, right? He's grown up and bowled his whole life. He bowled in school, college, high school, went straight to tour. In my personal opinion, again, I could be way off, there's a lot of experiences that he hasn't had out in, we'll just say, the world outside of bowling. We'll say that. The world outside of bowling, getting a job, kind of like working paycheck to paycheck, working public things, you know what I mean? You encounter a lot of different people. And a lot of times when people are first getting on their feet straight out of college or straight out of high school, that's when they start really encountering different types of people, because now they're not just at going to a school that everybody lived in the same neighborhood and everybody's kind of got the same attitude and they're the same like nationality and the race, you know what I mean? Like now you're going and working at places, at fast food jobs or whatever, you know what I mean? And you're encountering all different kinds of people. You're encountering old people that you're working with, younger people, people that are going to train you that you feel like don't deserve to train you, or vice versa. You're going to train people that feel like, wow, who's this kid? There's a lot of experiences like that in the world outside of bowling. But within bowling, it's like you kind of just start bowling and you just are around the same people this whole time, and you've grown up around them and you have these colleagues, and then you pick who you want to be with, and it's very cliquey. A lot of these bowlers that are on tour right now all bowled college together, all bowled juniors together, and you kind of get to pick who you want to be around, right? There's a reason the house exists, because all these guys that got along chose to room together because they get along with each other and they love bowling with each other, and then they eat lunch together and they eat dinner together, and then they hang out with each other, and then that's it. Don't get me wrong, there are bowlers on tour that other bowlers don't get along with, but my point is they don't necessarily have to associate with them. Even when they're bowling on the same pair as them, they just kind of put their head down and bowl. But it's different when you work somewhere, again, like a fast food job or a restaurant or whatever, because you're going to encounter people that you don't enjoy being around, but you have to work with them. You're forced to have somewhat of a relationship with somebody that you don't necessarily get along with. And I think this is kind of what Darren is talking about, where he's never really had to deal with that before. And again, I understand how that can be frustrating. That's something that I went through very early on, because I worked regular jobs, you know what I mean? Outside, I worked at a lot of fast food places and whatever. Personally, my opinion on this is I think everybody's got things that make them who they are, and a lot of times those things are not great. As an adult, I think most of the time what we do is say, okay, this person is kind of like that. I get it. I'm not going to take anything that they say too personal. Darren could never really move past whatever personality traits that I had that he didn't really like. He always just took it and tried to change me and change me and change me.
I think arrogance is warranted if you are really good at what you do. I think it's hard to separate confidence and arrogance sometimes when you're at the top of the game. Guys like Belmo and EJ, and even myself at times, we come off arrogant, but we're just confident in our abilities. And I feel like you kind of have to be that way if you want to be at the top at times. But Jesse wasn't only confident in his abilities, at least verbally, with editing and producing videos, but almost everything. He always spoke from a place of expertise rather than from a place of a learning mindset.
That whole statement about arrogance and confidence just kind of contradicts each other. It's like he's allowing arrogance to be confident in their abilities when it comes to bowling. Me, Belmo, and EJ are arrogant because we're confident in our abilities. Jesse's arrogant because he's also confident in abilities, but it's fine if we're arrogant, but it's not okay if Jesse's arrogant. Like, it doesn't really make sense. Okay, so regarding League Night with Lance, this is some very important context, right? This is one of the very many examples of me putting Darren's kind of feelings and emotions and needs before kind of anything else, just supporting him on like what he needs. Bringing Lance in was my idea. Did I want to continue to bowl on the channel? Of course. Did I want to continue to be in the League Night videos? Of course. But in League Night Season 2, I saw that Darren and Lance got along very well, and them bowling together was fireworks. I randomly, sitting on the toilet, I just texted Darren. I said, what do you think about bowling League with Lance? Darren never told me I can't bowl League with you again. He completely kept this bottled up. He did not say anything. Darren is making it sound like he's the one that said, you know what, I'm gonna bring Lance in, Jesse, you're out because I can't bowl with you. That's not at all the case. He never told me he can't bowl with me again. I saw it on my perspective that, dang, you know, like me and Darren have these relationship issues. It'd probably be best if we brought in somebody else and I could just focus on being behind the videos. And that would help Darren bowl better, have a better time doing what we're doing. Like I said, this is one of the many examples of me just supporting Darren way more than just a video editor, right? Like, that was way more than that. I was his partner in this whole thing, and I prioritized his success and his feelings about bowling and what we were doing more than anything else.
So he said, you know, I want to be 50-50 in this. I want to start an LLC. Let's start a company together, and yeah, 50% of the profits. And this is where I made my, I don't want to say first mistake, because I already made some mistakes maintaining a relationship with somebody that was admittedly a narcissist and petty, and again, a lot of qualities that are not the most ideal.
I'll speak real quick on the narcissist thing. I was in another long-term relationship after my ex-wife, and that had a lot of mental illnesses involved, and I went through a journey of feeling like I was a narcissist because I was kind of manipulated into thinking so. Do I have narcissistic tendencies? Of course, I'm a human. I think every person has narcissistic tendencies. Just because you're confident or just because you choose yourself first in some situations does not just make you a narcissist. But of course, people tend to think of themselves first in most situations. That's kind of part of just being a human. Am I justifying it? No, I'm just saying what reality is. I wasn't just a self-admitted narcissist and did nothing about it. I went through all kinds of therapy. I found multiple therapists. I did all kinds of research. I was watching all kinds of YouTube videos from different psychiatrists and stuff about like, how can I fix these things about myself, right? That were coming in between my relationships, but also I felt like some of it bled over into my relationship with Darren. Probably did, right? Again, I'll take responsibility for it. But like I said, I went to a lot of therapy and I did a lot of research. I didn't want to be like that anymore. And every single therapist that I went to told me the same thing. I would have multiple sessions with them. I'll tell them about what I was going through, like my background growing up and like my history with my dad and all these things, right? And then it always came to the same thing. Why are you here? I said, because I feel like I'm a narcissist. And they always said, true narcissists don't go to therapy. True narcissists don't believe they're narcissists. And I say, well, maybe I'm just like a very self-aware narcissist, or like I woke up and I just want to be better. Narcissists don't wake up. Narcissists are not self-aware. It's an oxymoron. You, Jesse, are not a narcissist. You may have narcissistic tendencies and you may have things that make you feel like you are, and you may have been led to believe that based on the people around you. But me talking to you as a therapist, you are not a narcissist. 3 different therapists said that. First one said that to me, I switched because I felt like I wasn't getting the help I needed. Second one said it to me, I switched again because I felt like I wasn't getting the help I needed. The third one said it to me, I'm like, all right, maybe you guys are onto something. Again, I just wanted to make sure because, again, I don't like destroying relationships. I don't like turmoil. I don't like conflict getting in, you know what I mean? I don't want anybody to feel uncomfortable around me. I try to be very careful about that stuff. And so yes, self-admitted narcissist at that time. I think I told Darren that I was going through that whole journey and I apologized about stuff and whatever. I still mean it. You know, I still meant those apologies and I still felt like that at the time. But right now, based on all the therapy and the research that I've done, would I still say that I am a narcissist? No. Do I have narcissistic tendencies? Yes. And we'll leave it at that.
So that's where the business part went. I basically signed off half of my brand to another person. And one thing I suggest is you never do that.
All I've told you guys as of now is that my deal was 4 videos for $1,000 a month, right? And this thought in my head of, okay, when the channel starts making more than $1,000 a month, I'm going to get paid more because that's what Darren kind of planted the seed, in my head of like, I just want to make a YouTube channel and give the editor whatever the money that the YouTube channel makes. That is not the case. I remember the very first month that we made more than $1,000. I felt like good. Like I sacrificed, 3-4 months of making very little money. I can finally start to make money, and my wife cannot be mad at me anymore that I'm putting so much time into this thing and barely making any money for it. I still only got paid $1,000 that month. I never brought this up to Darren. I never said anything about it, but I felt kind of misled, when that happened. But I thought about it from his perspective and said, okay, you know what? Since he invested all this money up front where the channel was making no money, maybe for a couple months while the channel's making more than $1,000, he just wants to take that extra and recoup his initial investment. Again, he didn't tell me this. I just went out of my way to try and see it from his perspective and then kind of put my head down and just move on, right? And then the channel started making closer to $2,000 a month, but we still had a very small channel. We're still well behind Packy in the house, still well behind Brad and Kyle. We were nowhere near the top. I noticed that when we would upload videos, we would make money. And we'd upload videos and we'd make money. And I said, you know what, maybe the solution here is to make more videos, but I can't do that without getting paid more. But instead of just asking Darren for more money, I said, let me take a leap of faith here. How about we make this a non-risk thing for you, Darren? How about instead of you paying me $1,000 out of your own pocket, we just split the YouTube channel revenue 50-50. Again, he was only at 1,000 subscribers when we first started. Now we're at 20-ish. I said, let's split the YouTube channel revenue 50-50, and there's no cap on any videos. I'll make as many videos as we need. We'll film as many videos as we want. I'll come up with the whole schedule. I'll do all the thumbnails, titles, editing. You don't have to worry about any content creation. I'll take all that on. You focus on being a bowler, and that's what you're best at. I'll focus on being a video producer, and that's what I'm best at. We come together, and we have this great partnership. Very quick conversation, actually. He said, you know what? Yeah, that's fine. There was not really any thought about it. This was a verbal agreement, right? This was not written or signed. This was just a verbal agreement. And he held up to his side of the verbal agreement the whole time. From then on, I said, if we make less than $2,000 a month, it's fine. I'll make $800. If we only make $60, you know what I mean? I'll take that risk. Or if we make more, then it's a W for both of us. If we both get to benefit from the growth of the channel, then we could both care about it in our own way and we could both win. And he thought it was a good idea. He said, okay, yeah, let's do that. And so then we started making more videos, and I started making 6, 7, 8, 10, 12 videos a month sometimes. Sometimes we'd upload once on a Tuesday, 2 times on the weekend, Saturday, Sunday, for the vlogs. You know what I mean? Sometimes 4 times a week I was making these videos, and I was doing all the editing. Again, the editing, the thumbnails, all the storytelling. League night was my idea. League night with Lance was my idea. All the ways that the ball reviews were titled and phrased and the thumbnails were all my idea. Break 800 was my idea. A lot of the coaching videos were topics that I prompted Darren, like 3 things a professional bowler, you know what I mean? Like, Darren, can you come up with 3 things? Like, a lot of these things were things that I came up with. And Darren is supposed to be the brains behind the bowling, and I'm kind of doing 90% of the back end work, and not once did I complain about it. He was 90% of the brand, but I was 90% of the videos actually going up. And then I got to a point where my abilities with video creation were being recognized by other bowling creators. Luis talked to me about making videos at one point. Brad and Kyle talked to me about different YouTube videos. Like, I got hired by Storm a couple times to make videos. And then Packy with the house also talked to me about making YouTube videos. So I'm being approached from all these different angles in bowling, but there was a part of it that felt like I want to just focus on Darren because, like, that's the 50-50 partnership. That's where I started. I didn't want him to feel slighted or that quote unquote cheating on him or anything like that, or conflict of interest, none of that, because there was a period of time that bowling YouTube kind of felt like competition, right? Nobody was at 200,000 subscribers yet. Like, we were all still growing rapidly, and we all just wanted to be better than one another. Darren and I always knew like the level of stuff that we had, and it was only a matter of time until we reached the top. So we didn't really think about that too much, but there was some competition feelings within the community of content, kind of perpetuated by the fans also. That's just the nature of a growing industry though. Like, that's very typical to happen. But once again, I wanted to prioritize the way Darren felt within this whole situation, because if it was just me thinking for myself, then yeah, I'm gonna come into this industry, I'm gonna revolutionize things with all the different channels, and everybody's gonna grow and we're all gonna have a good time. But I didn't want Darren to feel like I was leaving him in the dust. And so I texted him. I said, this person, I'm gonna block it out for privacy. This person has asked me like 3 times in the last week to work out a deal for me to help him out with his channel. But I would rather invest more time and effort into our channel since we've built it together from the ground up. But if we can't get on the same page about running it as a business and not just your YouTube channel, then I'm gonna have to continue to diversify where my income is coming from. Darren never really saw YouTube as a business, even though we had merchandise, we had like these different streams of income. We were starting to get some like sponsorship deals and stuff, and there's multiple partners involved. That's just kind of what you do. It didn't compute in his head, and then he would talk to other people on his side, and he would tell it from his perspective, and they were like, yeah, it doesn't really make sense. And so it took a lot of time to get Darren on board with creating a business. He never wanted to make it a business. He wanted to just keep all the YouTube revenue going to his personal account and then paying me out. That's not really in his best interest either, for many tax reasons. And if anybody knows anything about limited liability companies, like, it's just just what you do, you know what I mean? It speaks for itself, and you guys can look it up if you're curious about it. This is not a video about why you should start a business, but just know, if you have multiple streams of income and you have a significant amount of money coming in and you have partners, you create a partnership. That's what you're supposed to do. Darren didn't really understand that. It got to a point where I had to kind of tell him, I don't feel like this is a partnership because it's just your YouTube channel. And if that's how you want to keep it, then that's fine. But I'm going to work with these other people because that's just in my best interest. But if you want to lock things down and really care about it together and invest in this channel together, then let's talk about it. At this point, I'd already been self-employed and in business for 7+ years. My dad is an entrepreneur. Like, I grew up in business. This is Darren's first run-in with creating a business. He's worked in the pro shop, and his mom, I think, ran a bowling center and stuff. I don't know his background or how deep he got into like financials and stuff like that when it comes to those things, so I can't speak on it. But it is my understanding at the time, and now still, that creating a business of his own from the ground up, this was the first time that he'd approached that, when it was not my first time. And so I was just trying to help guide things in a way that is proper business. So we created the LLC, we signed the operating agreement, we decided we'd be 50-50 partners. But once again, me taking sacrifices, initiative, by the way, this is not initiated by him. I said, I think the best thing for you, Darren, is for you personally to still own 10% of your YouTube channel to yourself so that you still have majority. And then 90% of it goes to the business, which you are 50-50 owner of. Therefore, you are entitled to 55% of the YouTube channel still, and I am only entitled to 45%. That was my offer to him, just for him to feel more comfortable. He did not ask for this or whatever. I took the initiative so that he can feel safe and comfortable with creating a business. So him signing away half of his brand is not at all what happened. We had grown this brand together. We only had 1.5 thousand subscribers when we started working together. We grew it together all the way to 85,000 subscribers. It wasn't him just signing his brand away. It was the thing that we built together, creating a business that we now legally own together. That's all it was. And even then, I still made sure he had majority share without him even asking for it. Also, at the time, I had a desire to start making YouTube videos, and I launched a channel, the one that you're on right now, and you can see that it's got like 10,000 subscribers. I offered out of good faith, because I am starting a channel that is going to piggyback off of Darren's channel. I felt like it was in good faith to give a portion of what my channel was earning to the business, because we're going to be using the same cameras, we're going to be using the equipment. There's a lot of mix and cross promotion there. I offered on my own 10% of the revenue from my channel to go to the business also. These were all things that are signed, dated in the operating agreement, as you can see on screen. Not by any means did I want Darren to ever feel used, abused, slighted. I did a lot of things out of good faith and sacrifice on my end so that he would feel okay.
So anyways, this is where everything starts to branch out, right? You know, I'm thinking on the lines of, you know, if he has half the brand, then cool. He's gonna work really hard. He's gonna do what he needs to do to put out a good product. We're gonna work together on this thing. We're gonna make cool videos, yada yada yada. You know, we get into making.
He didn't ever finish that statement, by the way. He said, I'm thinking that he's going to care about this, that we're going to create a cool brand. He has half of it, blah, blah, blah. He never spoke on the fact that that's exactly what happened. I did care about what we were making just as much as if it was my own, because almost half of it was. I executed on all those things that he just said he thought was going to happen. I don't know why he didn't finish that statement, but that's what we did. We continued to make videos. I put a ton of effort in the brand, and we did exactly that. One thing that Darren fails to put in this video is one of the big rifts in our relationship was the fact that one day at bowling league, one of his buddies kind of aired him out, and it was kind of lighthearted, but it hit me in a way that made me feel a little weird. But once again, I didn't complain about it. When I said that I was 90% of the content creation of the channel, that's also self-admitted by Darren. I was talking to one of his closest friends that he grew up bowling with. And he told me he was just hanging out with Darren and he thought it was great that he could just show up, film videos, go home, and collect money. Those are Darren's words. Telephoned through his friend, but eventually it came up in conversation and Darren did admit to saying that. He thought it was great that he just didn't really have to worry about anything. And so for him to go in here and say, I thought it was just gonna be Jesse owning half of it and he's gonna care about it, blah, 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 and talk about how he feels done wrong because he signed away half his brand, which I helped him grow from practically zero. But then behind closed doors, he talks about, it's great that I really don't have to do anything and I can just collect money. You can have your own opinion on that.
He got into designer clothing and streetwear, and that's not something I was very passionate about. To kind of just keep the peace, I let him do his part there. I don't like oversized clothing. It's just never been me.
Yeah, 100% spearheaded by me, but all the merch was kind of spearheaded by me. He would throw me shirt ideas, but I either designed the shirts myself or found a designer for them. I built the entire website. I spearheaded the entire business side of everything, which Darren had really no interest in being a part of, which we'll get to in a little bit. When we were making merch, I kind of saw this opportunity, right? Because bowling kind of has this stereotype that bowlers are just these fat white dudes, right, that drink beer and blah, blah, blah. It's this casual game. It's a bar game, whatever. And I think everybody within bowling has their own desire to kind of break that stereotype, because that's not at all what the case is. There's a lot of athletes. There's a lot of cool people, you know, that bowl. Like Darren said, him on the athletic side, that's kind of where more of his passion was. But there was already people making athletic clothing, right? There's jersey companies. There's other, you know what I mean? Like even the league night t-shirts that we were making were more fitted and athletic wear. I simply wanted to open a door for people that didn't wear those types of shirts, that wanted to wear cooler clothing, but still wanted to represent bowling. That was my heart behind it. He did not have that same passion for those types of clothes. Sure, I didn't really have that type of passion for those types of clothes at the time either, but going through the process of making those clothes for those types of people got me into more oversized kind of streetwear. So all I was trying to do was take this sector of bowlers and give them some sort of representation, right? There's like I said, there's a lot of people that didn't want to wear our fitted tees because they just don't wear fitted tees, but they wear oversized tees and they wear oversized clothing and they wear, you know what I mean, sweatpants and baggy pants and you know, baggy t-shirts and whatever. And so my goal there was to just open that door for that side of bowlers. But I could totally see from Darren's perspective that Jesse's just kind of doing this on his own. He, you know, like this is his passion, not mine, and whatever. That's fine. Like I said, I'll take responsibility for anything, you know, in this video that I truly feel like is valid. You know, I'm not going to deny things that I did wrong, but I do feel like it's important to share extra context on some of these allegations, you know, that are coming my way.
And then fast forward a couple more seasons. Hey, I got an idea. Let's make a website where we teach people how to bowl. And, you know, this is a really good idea, honestly. This is how howtobowl.com came about. And
I don't know if it was the editing or if it was Darren misspeaking, or if this was his intention at all. He specifically said this right here. I'm going to play it one more time.
And fast forward a couple more seasons. Hey, I got an idea. Let's make a website where we teach people how to bowl. And
hey, I got an idea. Let's make a website where we teach people how to bowl. I'll give the benefit of the doubt, and I think the way that he was saying it was quoting me, but that is not what the video portrays. Howtobowl.com was 100% my idea. I came up with the idea based on the filmmaking course that I took as I was learning how to create videos. It was called Full-Time Filmmaker. Full-Time Filmmaker is a very successful video production course, and I took that entire framework and wanted to apply it to bowling. I saw that it was something that already existed, that works. Nobody's done it in bowling yet, so why not us? I pitched that entire idea to him. Like I said, I'll give the benefit of the doubt, and I think he was quoting me. He did not say that though, and I could see how if you don't know that and you're just watching this video for the first time, that it looks like it was Darren's idea saying, hey, I got an idea, let's make a website teaching people how to bowl. Very important context for this whole thing. But at the time of the creation of this, I did not care about the front-facing credit of creating howtobowl.com. Behind the scenes is different conversations with business and stuff like that, which we'll get to right now. But to the fans, I did not care who they thought created howtobowl.com. All I cared about was having this good product. Even in the promo video that we made for the launch of howtobowl.com, I edited the video and created the narrative to make it look like Darren approached me with the idea. Again, me taking a hit, me making sure he looks good, front facing to the people, whatever. The credit does not matter to me at the time, and it still kind of really doesn't, but I'm speaking on it because it's important context for what is about to come.
This is a really good idea, honestly. This is how howtobowl.com came about, and I'm going to address, if anybody has purchased a subscription through howtobowl.com, I sincerely apologize. I was about as disconnected as you could be to something that has your face on it, but I do sincerely apologize to anybody that felt like they were cheated, or if you felt like we were just taking your money. That was not the intent.
I also would like to apologize on behalf of myself and everybody involved with howtobowl.com. It is not the product that I wanted it to be whatsoever. I wanted to upload videos way more. I wanted to be way more involved with the people that put their faith in us to have a good product for them. As somebody that ran howtobowl.com fully on the back end, the business side of things, I completely dropped the ball for sure, and I apologize as well. I have a hard time justifying emotional decisions on my end. I don't there's business and there's emotion, and I truly think they should be completely separated. I think that's proper business practice, to not let your emotions get involved. Sometimes it happens though, and sometimes we just have human moments, and howtobowl.com is definitely one of those human moments for me, where there was so much hype and so much excitement. We thought this was end game, right? Like, this is what's gonna take us to the top of the world, you know what I mean? And we're gonna be very successful off of the YouTube channel and howtobowl.com and the merch and everything, but howtobowl.com was the thing that I felt like was really gonna take us to that next level as a business. And to feel that disconnect from the person whose face is all over it definitely played a toll on my feelings about it also. Again, I'm not trying to justify it. I should have done better with running the whole thing and how everything came to be, and the product that everybody got. My responsibility, my accountability, that's 100% on me. What Darren is talking about definitely sprouted a lot of those feelings. But again, I'm in control of my own actions, so it's my fault.
But initially, 85% of that was Jesse, equity-wise. So a lot of people kind of questioned why I was only getting 15% there. I questioned that myself as well. I think there was some growing resentment there. The product went out and we never signed any contracts or anything stating, this is the amount of equity or this is the revenue share or whatever. But I got lowballed and I got railroaded. I was manipulated into thinking that that's what I was worth. I ended up taking it, and looking back, that was another mistake that I made.
Okay, so I just want him to get his whole point. I didn't want to interrupt him. But I'm going to rewind here a little bit.
Initially, 85% of that was Jesse.
Okay, so this is already false. Initially, we were 50-50. Howtobowl.com was supposed to be another thing under Dynasty Bowling, which is our LLC. There's a lot of work that goes into creating an online course. There's the website, there's the 100+ videos that we had to film and edit. There's running Facebook ads. There's all these things, you know what I mean? There's so many details to the story, and it's crazy. But initially, we were 50-50. We started to film all these videos. I took it upon myself to run the entire business once again, because me being considerate of Darren's time and energy, I just wanted him to focus on being a bowler and performing, and he wasn't performing well on tour and stuff, and so I just wanted him to be able to focus on that. I'll take the responsibility of doing all the business and the content creation side. So I created the whole website, I built the whole thing, I made all the graphics, all the verbiage, everything. I taught myself how to do it. I learned, I looked at other people's online courses, I just went out of my way to figure all that stuff out on my own, because I had never done it before. And Darren had never done it before either, but I didn't want to put that burden on him. I just wanted to be able to have him focus on being a bowler. The one thing that I asked Darren for was to create the curriculum for howtobowl.com, because he's the pro, right? He's the professional bowler. He should be the brains behind all of it. I created the curriculum for howtobowl.com. Darren contributed with revisions after I created the entire outline. Okay, so here's the outline for howtobowl.com, right? These are all the videos that I believe, have filmed, or possibly filmed almost, whatever. I'm gonna show you guys here. This is the history that we have of the document. This is May 31st, 2023. The first time this document has been uploaded. Okay, we're gonna look at all of this. This is all edited by myself, not by Darren. You could see right here on the side, all Jesse Curiel right here. You see everything here. All of these edits are Jesse Curiel. I came up with this entire curriculum the first time Darren added to it was September 19th. He added some stuff right here, pre-tournament, like this stuff. This is the second round of videos that we filmed for howtoball.com. But the first initial huge round of videos that we launched the course with were only come up with by me. And so the only thing that I asked Darren for, being the curriculum of howtoball.com, he didn't even do it. And so not only did I create the whole website, design the whole website, create all these graphics, land all these partnerships, discount codes, everything, create all the pricing, all this stuff. The one thing that I asked Darren for was the curriculum as the professional bowler, and we never got it. And so I took it and I did it myself, and he barely added anything to it until months later. And then we get to launch week, right? We bought the domain howtoball.com. Again, we're still 50-50 here, even though I've done 95% of everything leading up to the creation of this product. We get to launch day. We run this pre-sale. We got all these people signed up for the wait list. I was very excited. I was expressing excitement. I had a countdown on my Instagram story, everything. Darren didn't even stay up for the launch of this product that we've been working on together for months already. We've been filming these videos and we finally launch it. I put in all this work to make this thing happen. We have a countdown. It's not like he didn't know about it. There's a public countdown of when it's gonna launch. We had 100 spots open for the pre-sale and we had 300 people on the wait list. We were so excited, or so I thought. And then he didn't even stay up for the launch. I thought he was gonna call me and get in a Discord call and we're gonna watch like people start to buy it and we're going to celebrate and all this stuff. He didn't express that same amount of care for the product as I did. And that was the biggest wake-up call for me, because again, we were 50-50 at this time. Within a couple of days, it could have been the next day or whatever, I start to realize howtobowl.com is bigger than just the Darren Tang channel. It can be very big. If we get other professional bowlers involved, this could be a thing that could be on TV shows, the howtobowl.com Classic, the sponsored by howtobowl.com, like all this stuff, like this could be a very big thing and we can get the whole bowling community involved to feed into this one platform. It could be very big. I reached out to Darren and I said that idea. I said, I think this thing can be really big. I don't think it should be just limited to the Darren Tang channel. I think it could be a huge thing within bowling, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of back end. It's a lot of business. It's a lot of negotiations. It's a lot of Facebook ads. It's a lot of learning. It's a lot of website management, member management, all this stuff. I don't want you, Darren, to have to deal with all of that. And so here's my offer. I'm offering you 15% as an instructor. All you have to worry about is the curriculum and filming videos. You don't have to worry about anything else on the back end. Howtobowl.com is not a bowling product. It is an info product, but the information is bowling. But you take bowling out and you put cooking in there, video creation. You could put anything in there, how to do anything, and it's still, the business itself stays the same. Darren also failed to mention that we got 2 other partners involved as instructors that I also offered 15% to. So I never once just had 85% to myself. I offered Darren 15%, I offered one instructor 15%, and I offered the other instructor 15%. I had 55% as the managing member of this business, and all the instructors had 15%, which they all agreed to. Darren also failed to mention when he talked about being disconnected from everything, and he expressed to me that he felt done wrong with howtobowl.com, how the whole deal went down, the negotiation. He didn't like the way that he felt strong-armed or railroaded or whatever verbiage he puts in there. He felt like I just forced it upon him to take the 15% when it was just an offer, and he could have said no and we could have continued to negotiate. He expressed that he felt like he didn't get his fair share, but it wasn't about the money, it was about the sentiment. And I said, okay, here's my sentiment now. Please let me know if it helps. I will give you 10% of my own share. I will go down to 45% and give you 25%. And the other partners will stay at 15. In business, typically when you give somebody equity, every partner is diluted. I did not do that. I took 10% out of my own share to make Darren's share now 25%. I went down below majority so that Darren could feel better about what he's being involved in. Why he failed to mention that in the video, I don't know. He did say initially 85% was to me, 15% to him, which is just a complete false statement. Initially, it was 50-50. And then he showed no interest in the actual growth of the business. So I said, okay, I would like to take it further. And then I gave every other partner the offer of 15%. I didn't just keep 85% for myself. And then I gave him more share later on once he expressed to me how he felt about it. He left so many details out of that whole deal and business just to make his situation look worse.
A lot of people kind of questioned why I was only getting 15% there. I questioned that myself as well. I think that
I answered all his questions every single time. And if you talk to anybody that runs an online business, whether it be drop shipping, any sort of info product that you sell, they know all the work is in the marketing. All the work is in the Facebook ads and the YouTube ads and how you present the product to the people. He really didn't have to do anything. Once again, all he had to do was show up and film videos. But I do cut a lot of grace for him here because from his perspective, he never had to build a business like this. And so I understand that he doesn't know. He only knows what he can know, and I can't hold that against him. It sucks that I couldn't express to him in a proper way of why it was so much work on the back end. But hopefully anybody in the comments here can vouch, if you get involved in any sort of just business in general, that a lot of the times what it is that you are selling is not the work. The work is in how to sell it, not the actual product itself.
I think there was some growing resentment there. The product,
a lot of growing resentment there, which we will get into, but keep that in mind, growing resentment.
Went out and we never signed any contracts or anything stating, this is the amount of equity or this is the revenue share or whatever. But I got
Okay, again, false. I will pull up the operating agreement right now. So here is the operating agreement for howtoball.com LLC. As you can see here, it is between myself, Dynasty Bowling, which is me and Darren's business that we are 50-50 on. I'm gonna block the other people involved for the sake of privacy. You can see right here, it says that I own 40%. 30% is owned by Dynasty Bowling. So 15 of that goes to Darren and 15 of that goes to myself. And as you can see right here at the bottom, signed by Dynasty Bowling by Darren Tang. This is his signature signed on October 16th, 2023. Truthfully, I just don't know if it's blatant lies that he's trying to tell or if he just forgot. That's up to you guys to decide.
Got lowballed and I got railroaded. I was manipulated into thinking that that's what I was worth. I ended up taking it, and looking back, that was another mistake that I made, not understanding my worth and valuing myself the way I need to. Another mistake there, if you don't feel right about a deal, don't take it. Just know what you're worth. And if you don't, surround yourself with people that reinforce you. And yeah, it was just a really bad experience.
Surround yourself with people who reinforce you is another word for having yes men in your life, unfortunately. And that's my take on this. Darren talks to a lot of people on his side that always validate how he feels about everything. And never once has he said, yeah, I talked to this person and they actually showed me your perspective and I kind of agree with it. No, every single time it's, I talked to this person, they said this and they said that, and it just made me feel even more strongly about how I felt initially. So I just don't know. Like, dude, you should be surrounding yourself with people that challenge you. Respectfully, of course. But like, how do you grow if everybody's just reinforcing you? I'm not saying you shouldn't have support, but you should definitely be challenged by the people around you also. But if you just continue to go to the people that are going to tell you, yes, you're right all the time, you're just never going to learn.
He felt some resentment on his side because he felt like I wasn't doing what he expected me to do. And, it was a big thing for him, and it wasn't a big...
I didn't feel resentment towards Darren for him not doing what he was doing. I just said, let's structure the deal differently so that everything can be good. Resentment is a very strong word. I did not hold any hate or resentment towards Darren for him not making the curriculum or whatever. All I said was, okay, this is what happened. This is where I think I could take it. But the deal needs to be structured this way and everything is fine. There was never any like, what is wrong with you? This and that, blah, blah, blah. Never once. Not one single time.
It wasn't a big priority for me, I will admit. So for that, I apologize. But at the same time, I just don't think what happened was acceptable. And every single successful business owner that I talk to about that deal feels the same way. And they're letting me know that, we make mistakes and we just have to get through it. And that's how you learn, you get.
Not a single one of those business partners ever talked to me one time about why I structured the deal that way. Like, nobody ever reached out to me or any sort of representation for Darren at all. Of course, if Darren is coming to them saying, hey, I feel slighted on this because of this and I'm the face of it, blah, 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 of course they're going to enable him to continue to feel that way. But if we talk to business partner, which I've done a million times, they all get it. But of course, Darren's friends and his business partners are going to empower him to feel that way.
After that, I did not want to be really a part of that at all. He always valued his position as a content editor, producer, more than the content itself. He always had words. He said, I am this. And, there's that saying, you could talk the talk, but you walk the walk. And there was a lot of talking, not a lot of walking in terms of presenting himself in a way that he said.
Again, major contradiction, a lot of talking and not a lot of walking, even though Darren was the one talked to his friend about how Jesse does everything with the videos and he gets to sit home and collect the money.
I just came to a realization that I was not happy making YouTube videos with this person, and I wanted to continue making YouTube videos,
Okay. So this is another big thing. He said he came to a realization that he was not happy making YouTube videos. That is true. And I commend him for his honesty with that. However, that is not at all how the conversation was approached when it came to separation. As you can see in the text that I will put on screen, he said, I want to talk to you about the group and the channel. And the group is referring to myself, Darren, two other business partners, one of which is a professional bowler. We all agreed to a business partnership to kind of take on, content in a different way, moving forward. And the start of that call started as, how do you feel about how the group is going? Like, what's your opinion on this person and how they're running things? And I started being vulnerable with him. Like, things are kind of off a little bit over here and like that, but I'm kind of just stepping back and just kind of letting this person lead. I'm trusting their judgment. I'm just trying to be a team player. Like, whatever they're asking me to do, I'm doing it. But that became completely irrelevant once we got to the root of what he was trying to get at eventually. And then it got to a point where he was talking to me about the money, because in 2025, bowling YouTube has gone down. We've made less money this year than ever in our entire time of making YouTube videos. Once we passed maybe 50,000 subscribers, this has been the lowest year so far. And he expressed that to me, and he said, do you feel like we need to pay this person? Like, what about our editor? We pay him a lot of money, and I feel like that's what you were good at. So why are we still paying him? And I told him, well, because the money's eventually going to go back up again, and it's important to keep the machine running. Darren had the nerve to ask me, what do you feel like you do? What do you do now? Which just feels very disingenuous, because not only did I, at the time, I still managed all of our employees, ran the entire merch shop, created every thumbnail, uploaded every video, came up with all the titles, and so on and so on. It's not all just what I did, but it's also what have I done, dude? Why are you asking me that? Am I doing slightly less now than when we first started? Of course, because when you bootstrap a company, you got to pick it up and do everything. But once you have employees, now the roles kind of change and you manage people, and rather than doing things yourself, you delegate. But we didn't just get there overnight. I edited all the videos and made all the thumbnails and all the titles and everything throughout, and managed all the content for the first 3 years before we even hired an editor. And then I had to train that editor into making YouTube videos how I did, as close as possible. And I created systems for all these people to follow, so that if there ever was a time that I stepped out, or I went on vacation or whatever, then the channel can still keep running. As an owner, the goal is not to continue being hands-on the whole time. It's to build a machine so that you can enjoy the fruits of your labor at some point. And that on that phone call, Darren was trying to convince me to fire our editor, and so that I could go back to making YouTube videos so that the business could save money or whatever. The business is just reinvesting into itself. And then eventually his true feelings came out, where he just told me that he wasn't happy making YouTube videos anymore. And again, I suggested, would it be better if I stepped away? He did not kick me out like he's making it seem. I suggested it, again, for the sake of his feelings. One thing Darren can never, ever say about me throughout this whole journey of us together is that I did not support him. My entire role in his life was to support him as a bowler, and I had his back every single possible time that I could. Even when he was being cold to me in person, he was dapping up the person next to me and then just giving me the fist bump. When he would barely talk to me and he would joke around with Lance and then just look at me with disgust, I toughed through all of that, and I still supported him, and I still did everything that I could to make him look good online. I did everything to protect his image as a bowler and as Darren Tang, and everything that we created him to be online. We started working together right after his breakout year on tour. He came in 8th in points. He made a World Series show. He was the first seed. He bowled those 2 300s. He was the first seed of the Jonesboro Open. That was his breakout year in bowling, and he performed the best ever. He got a lot of fans from that year, and then we started making YouTube videos. After that, he never performed quite as good. And every single year, it was a conversation that I had with him. Do you feel like the content's getting in the way? Do you feel like holding a camera is making it harder for you, like the responsibility? He's like, nah, there's no way. And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, like, maybe we should try. Should we send a camera guy out there? And so we did, again, with Darren's feelings in the forefront. I wanted him to perform as best as possible as a bowler. So we sent a camera guy out there. And so we're dishing out money for his friend to stay with the guy's car every now and then for his food and to pay him so that Darren didn't have to hold the camera anymore. And then he still didn't perform good. And then I'm like, okay, do you think it's maybe us? Like, is it our relationship that's getting in the way? And he's like, nah, like, there's no way. Like bowling is just completely separate. And then eventually it's like, it could be getting in the way. And then he's still not performing good. And I ask him again, like, we keep having these conversations of us not getting along, and then we ask if we want to cut the business, but then you want to continue and try to be friends, but then you go and you treat me coldly again and again and again and again. And I keep asking, like, what's happening? And he's like, you know what? Yeah, maybe it is getting in the way. And now on that separation phone call that we had, he's like, yeah, I definitely cannot deny that our relationship got in the way of my bowling. And then even at the end of this video, he says, is it a coincidence that I'm now bowling good? Like, dude, he's moved the goalpost on his performance so many times. And from the very beginning, I tried to take responsibility for it, whether it be the responsibility of the content or the actual relationship getting in the way of his performance. And he said, no, maybe, I don't know. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, it is. That's just so fake, and there's no responsibility. And now he's just throwing me under the bus.
I came to the realization that this person just makes me upset. I walk into the building. I'm scared for what they're going to say. I'm scared how they're going to act, how they're going to talk to people. I just didn't see a lot of respect for other people in him, and he always spoke above other people. Our last conversation didn't go well at all.
Okay, before we get to the last conversation, Darren very outwardly speaks about me like it's impossible to get along with me. I was so convinced by Darren that I had to change who I was in order to get along with people, when in reality, I only had to change who I was around him. And I did that so much. I was his literal bitch. The way that I approached him, afraid that any little thing that I say is going to tick him off, is just insane. I don't talk to anybody else the way that I have to talk to Darren. Even so much so, you can see in these texts right here. This is a very clear example of how I have to be so careful around this guy. When we started League Night this season with Darren, Jenna, and Lance, we moved from South Point to Gold Coast, and I was apprehensive about how the internet would run and stuff like that and the whole setup. And so on the very first night, I wanted to test the stream, not announce it, just run a little test stream to make sure that all the connections and everything worked. And I expressed this to Darren in person. I don't think he remembered it based on what I'm about to show you, but I definitely expressed it. Maybe I didn't say it enough, and also I didn't say it in text, so that's my fault for not leaving a paper trail. So I'll take the L on that one. So Darren posted an Instagram post announcing League Night Live when I just wanted it to be a test stream. I didn't want to announce it. Once I saw his post, I told him that. I said, tonight was meant to just be a test stream, by the way. Didn't announce it and wasn't planning to because we don't know how the internet and setup is going to be yet. We'd rather figure it out without the pressure of 500 people watching. It might be best to edit your IG caption if possible, which I feel like was a very fair thing to say to somebody. Like, I don't think any of it was out of line whatsoever. And he goes, I can. Would appreciate it if you could ask instead of advise next time, since I was under the impression we were going to stream and wasn't told otherwise. This is an example of him just being so nitpicky. All I said was, it might be best to edit your IG caption if possible. I didn't say change your IG caption now. I'm just saying it might be best if you can. And he goes, can you ask instead of advise next time? And then I even respond with so much care and consideration. Okay, I did mention before that week one would just be a test, but it was in person, so there's no paper trail. My bad for not mentioning it again. So I recognize where he's coming from. I see it from his perspective. I take accountability for what I could have done better. And then I say, I'll still try to be more mindful of how I speak to you. Once again, laying at this guy's feet, bowing down in front of him, whatever he wants in order for this relationship to be better. And he has the nerve in this video to say that I just didn't want to grow as a person and that I didn't want to get better. When I have so many texts like this where I'm just like, okay, I'll do better. I'll do what I can. I'm sorry. I apologize. I take accountability. I'll be more mindful.
It ended with me kind of standing up to him saying, hey man, I don't appreciate you being condescending right now. You're kind of talking down to me. And he just called me emotional. And at that point, I said, yeah, I'm not having this conversation. I just walked away.
This is where things get really sticky. The last conversation we had was about our separation, right? What that looks like. And once again, I have texts of Darren telling me that he's down to do things fairly, get a proper valuation on the company, and then pay out my share accordingly. That's not at all what happened. He basically said, fuck every valuation. I don't care what the company is worth. He took it upon himself to think that the company is not worth anything. Like he said, it's impossible to put a worth on it because if you leave, it's not going to be worth as much. Regardless, we still have years and years of income to prove what this business is worth and what it could be. Okay, so anybody in business that has dealt with ownership and equity and buyouts will know this. When it comes to buying out a partner, what you do is you get the company evaluated, and it's usually done by a third party. Typically, the formula in which they use to evaluate is they look at an annual revenue, and then you add a multiplier on that. And that multiplier is dependent upon how scalable the business is. So if it's a software company or a tech company, it's extremely scalable. They can create a bunch of products, sell a bunch of software. The multiplier is anywhere between, we'll just say like 8 to 15x on some companies like that. So if a company makes $1 million in a year and it has a growing history, you could put a multiplier on that of 8x, and that's an $8 million company. Again, just easy numbers, right? That as opposed to, let's say, a t-shirt printing business where it takes one person. You can only make as many shirts as people you have because it takes one person to print a shirt. Not a very scalable company. You have to hire more people in order to put out more product. And so that would get less of a multiplier. We'll say maybe 3x, 4x. So if they made $1 million in a year, that'd be maybe worth a $3 million company. Our business, as you can see right here, bear in mind some of the worst months that we've had recently, our business made $155,000. You can see right here, $161,000 out. That's because we pay ourselves. Typically, when you start a business from nothing, you don't really pay yourself. You kind of just reinvest it into the business. So our business would be profitable if we didn't pay ourselves, but because this is the only thing that I work on and we're 50-50, any money that I need for the month, I also have to send the same amount to Darren out of 50-50 like fairness, right? And so, yes, we kind of bled money in that sense to keep things fair and 50-50. But once again, it's the only thing I worked on for the last few years. And so that's where the bulk of my income had to come from. But if we didn't pay ourselves, we'd very much would have a profitable business. $155,000 for the year on the low end. Our business had not made any less than that for the last 3 years. And so when it comes to valuation, I did not even ask for a multiplier. I said just 1 year of annual revenue, 50% of that. In theory, you can make that back in 6 months, which is a perfectly fine investment for a business when buying out a partner. Usually it takes years to recoup stuff like that. Darren said, yeah, I'm just not willing to do that. The only money that I'm willing to pay you is $15,000. I'm just not really going to move off of that number. And so you could take it. And if you don't want to take it, then we could just blow the whole thing up and just not make YouTube videos anymore. So he basically threatened me with a take it or leave it, threatened to delete the channel behind closed doors, told me he wouldn't make YouTube videos anymore and everything would just go to zero if I didn't just take his offer of $15,000 for a business that I worked on for 5 years that made $15,000 a month for 20, 30 months throughout that whole 5 years. Like every single winter, we were upwards of 10K, 11K, 13K, 15K, 20K plus with merch sales. And he offered me $15,000 for 5 years of work. And he got the whole channel, 250,000 subscribers. He can make all that back in 1 month and said, I'm not willing to pay you any more than that. You could take it or not. Once again, I've taken so many hits. I negotiated a little bit. So to be fair, I kept a lot of camera equipment, which is worth about maybe 10K. Some money that I owed him from howtobowl.com, we washed away. We'll call it about 30 to 35K in value. Once again, that's not even a half of 6 months of revenue that our company made. He wants to talk about doing wrong and the 85-15 thing when that isn't even the case. I offered him the same share as every other instructor that the other instructors were perfectly fine with. And to say he got railroaded and to go and turn around and basically leave me with no choice and threaten to delete the YouTube channel, that's so hypocritical. Like, how can you criticize somebody for something and then just do it right back to them? If it's out of vengeance or whatever, then whatever, man, more power to you. But like, that's just not how you lead. That's not how you set an example. That's not how you be a better person. That's just cruelty and evil. And to go off and say, yeah, I love making YouTube videos. Like, I want to make sure I create good info for the fans, blah, blah, blah. And then just threaten to delete the whole thing. Again, for this whole video to him being like, you are worth something, know your worth, blah, 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 don't take any less. When it came to the separation, we did not sign that deal until 2 days ago, maybe 3 days ago, at the time of filming this, which would be July 31st. Darren took it upon himself to change the bank account for the YouTube channel to his own personal bank account before we signed any deal. He removed my access from the YouTube channel before we signed any deal. The money that was supposed to be paid for June, where I still uploaded every video, got paid to his own personal bank account. And he tried to take that for himself before I got somebody else involved. Me getting somebody else involved did result in him paying me, but without saying a word still. I even reached out to him and said, did you change the bank account? I still uploaded videos in this month. Dead silence. Even in July, I was gonna take the hit. As you can see here, in July, only 1, 2, 3 videos were uploaded. Every video before that was uploaded prior to any of the separation talk happening. Therefore, all the money that was still paid in July, minus those 3 videos, I should still technically be entitled to my half, because that's all money that the channel's making off of videos from years ago, all these videos. And he changed the bank account without saying anything to me, and then took away my access without saying anything to me. This is the context of when I told him he was being emotional. We were talking about the deal, and he said he's only worth or willing to do 15,000 or whatever. Well, okay, like, I get that it's a lot of money to cough up front. What if we did a payment plan? I said, would you be open to that? He said, maybe. I said, okay, if we did a payment plan, because it's not being all paid up front, it would most likely result in more money being paid out over time. You do understand that, right? Is that okay? And he goes, yeah, I get it, but I feel like you're just being really condescending right now. I'm very aware of how I talk to Darren more than anybody else, you guys, because of this, all these problems that we've had. I'm only saying this because Darren has not gone through a buyout or any of this business stuff before. I just want to make sure that we're on the same page. And he took that as me being condescending. And then I lashed back and I said, dude, for the last 5 years, you've been just trying to change me every single time. All you do is try and change how I act around you. And now that we're separating, I'm just not gonna let you do that to me anymore. And he said, I'm not trying to change you. I'm just telling you that you're being condescending. And I was like, dude, you're just being emotional, because that doesn't matter right now. We need to just get on the same page about what we're gonna do moving forward. And then he walked away, as somebody would do when they're emotional. Adults can have conversations. You can disagree and still talk about it, even if it gets a little bit heated. It is what it is. But you can have maturity and just get things done for the sake of getting things done. But he went and changed things on his own, did not communicate anything, violated our operating agreement, which I'm not holding him to, for the sake of just moving on with things. But damn, dude, he had to make this video, and I have to respond because he said so many bad things about me.
I just don't know what else it would take for this person to realize that change needs to be made, at least to work with other people on a scale of this magnitude.
I've worked on a scale of a way higher magnitude than what me and Darren did. Him and I had this very minute kind of partnership where he stayed in his lane and I stayed in my own. We didn't have weekly meetings. We didn't have content strategy meetings or anything like that. We barely worked together. He showed up, filmed videos, and then left. I went home, got the videos uploaded, and then we collected money. He has no idea what he's talking about when it comes to working with people of this magnitude or whatever. Like, his whole life has just been bowling and bowling and bowling. And this may feel like a large magnitude for him, but when it comes to real business, this is nothing.
Yeah, it's tough. You know, some people just don't want to change, and that's okay. But if that is the case, you can't stick around forever. You have to.
And claiming that I don't want to change when I have so many texts. And he's even admitted that he's seen change. But it was this constant cycle of Darren holding this hate in his heart from the very beginning. And the resentment from the howtobowl.com thing and from how things started off between us and me questioning his authority on the bowling stuff. And that stuck with him forever. Even self-admitted by Darren on that separation phone call he said himself, everything has been kind of fine lately. Nothing happened. You didn't do anything. I just feel like I can't get rid of this resentment. He said it himself. Nothing happened. I didn't do anything recently. It's a buildup of things that have happened over the years. But to say nothing has happened lately, everything's been fine, but then on the other side say this person doesn't want to change, they contradict each other. It doesn't make sense.
A big reason why I don't have interest in speaking with Jesse anymore as well is the more we started to uncover some rocks, turn them over, we're finding out some things, some very shady things going on financially, and communication was never very good. Jesse would sponsor events or spend money in places and not say anything about it. It's just big.
Okay, once again, I have the receipts. For him to say that I did not say anything to the other partners is just crazy, because I literally have a long text right here explaining the tour event that we sponsored, everything that we got out of it, why it was a good deal, and then I ended it with any thoughts or objections. I only paid the deposit for the event 2 days before, and then I wrote out that text. Plus, as you can see in the very top of the text, I said, I mentioned to Darren and blank, but not blank yet. So this text was only to fill in the one other person. Darren and the other instructor already knew about this before I even paid the deposit. For him to say in this video that I would do this without telling them is crazy. But not only that, remember when I said the money used to go into Darren's personal bank account from YouTube before we created the business? Every single time that I felt ready for the business to purchase a new piece of equipment to make better videos, I would always have to run it by Darren first. I would say, hey, can you buy this? Hey, can you buy that? Just making sure this is good, because he's the one that had to pay for it. He said, yep, no problem, whatever, every time. But every single time I had to run it by him. Once we finally formed our business and we had a joint bank account that all the money went into, I still ran purchases by him. As you can see in this text right here, I said, cool with you if I send it on the next camera. Send it as in purchase, or do more things need to be settled? This is a $5,000 camera purchase, by the way. And then I got a little confused on I wasn't sure if he meant, yeah, things need to be settled more, or if, yeah, you can purchase it. And so I clarified that with him. I said, good to go. He said, buy it. I said, for sure, thanks. And then he says this, no need to send messages like that in the future. Darren gave me the open door to just purchase things as needed. I didn't need to run it by him anymore now that we had a joint bank account. He specifically said, you don't gotta text me about that anymore.
But we're moving forward. We're still putting videos out. I'm not quitting YouTube. I actually feel really good. I'm in a good headspace now. I do feel like a large weight has been lifted off my shoulders and on my brain, off my brain. Is it a coincidence that I'm bowling really good right now? I don't know. Maybe the two-handed game is just getting to a point to where it's competitive now and it's giving me opportunities, or maybe I am just free mentally now to go out there and chase what I love. If you guys made it this far, thank you.
I'm not a perfect person. I'm always going to have issues. I'm always going to have faults. I'm always going to have human moments, of course, just as anybody does. And I think it's important to have grace for everybody when they fall short. I'm not perfect. I don't strive to be perfect. I think perfection is not attainable as a human. You guys can form your own opinion on the things that I've told you. I know this video is pretty freaking long. It's 2.5 hours of recording. Hopefully I cut it down to a lot more manageable time. Like I said, I'm not in the business of hurting other people for my own personal gain. I'm not going to say subscribe to the channel, I'll make more content, blah, blah, blah. I don't know if I will. I don't know if I won't. Whatever. I really only made this video because of the video that was made about me. For those of you that have been a fan of me for the last 5 years and have appreciated the videos and stuff, I'm deeply grateful for you. It was a really fun journey coming into a space, that didn't really have what we were able to do. And so for the same reasons that Darren is grateful for you guys as fans, I am as well. You guys mean just as much to me as you do to him. And whatever your opinion is on the situation, you're entitled to that, and that's fine. What's next? I'm not really sure. I was hoping to have that figured out before I had to make a video like this, but I guess we'll find out.